Hello, I'm Liam Hickey and welcome to BackTalk. Joining me today is Mr. Terence Lester, a speaker, author, activist, and thought leader. Thank you so much for coming, Mr. Lester.
Liam, I'm grateful to be here.
Well, thank you. We're really excited to have you, Terence. So to start, I think there's no really better place to start than your influences. Who were your mentors growing up?
Yeah, when I was a teenager, I had this friend who had a phenomenal father. My friend's name was Eric, and his dad, I used to call him Mr. Moore because he wouldn't let me use his first name, obviously. But Mr. Moore was someone who, when I was going through many struggles, like experiencing homelessness as a teenager, trying to figure out my way because I didn't really have any strong male influences in my life. He was someone that would always pull me aside and just kind of speak positive words over me. He actually told me that I would be a leader when I was going through a really tough challenge as a teenager.
Wow. So do you think Mr. Moore really played a big role in where you are now as an adult?
I know Mr. Moore played a really big role. One is because, not only did he mentor me, because of my relationship with his son, but he would take time to talk to me about life and the direction I was heading in. I remember when I was thinking about going to college, he was the first person I called, and I asked him, do you think I should try to put myself through college? I didn't have any other male examples. He was the person that I could call when I was thinking about marrying my wife. I've been married 16 years now. He was the person when I was thinking about starting an organization that I went to early on, and he really encouraged me and told me that I would be able to do it. He told me that I would literally use my story one day to encourage people. And guess what?
Now you are.
Here we are.
Here we are, exactly, yeah. And what's your relationship with Mr. Moore now?
Yeah. Well, Mr. Moore is living in spirit right now. He passed away the first year I started the organization Love Beyond Walls. And the reason why I say he's living in spirit is because each time I get a chance to tell his story and his influence on me, he continues to live, and he's still inspiring people with how he impacted my life.
Well, I'm sure he'd be very proud of you for that nonprofit, Love Beyond Walls.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you could talk a little bit more about that, and that foundation you founded in 2013?
Yeah. I really became really frustrated at the way people experiencing homelessness were viewed and seen. There were times me and my wife early on would go downtown and build relationships with people who were unhoused, and we would get a chance to see a part of their humanity that isn't often talked about. The smiles, the laughs, the dreams, the hopes, the fears, the trauma. And I remember going to my wife in 2013, and I was asking her, would she allow me to live on the streets, to go through a demonstration, to use social media and my cell phone to document those experiences, to kind of educate people about the realities of what people experiencing homelessness go through day by day. And they did. And I did it multiple times, and I lived on the streets for a little over a month.
Wow.
Eating out of trash cans, being put out of shelters, documenting the entire experiences, allowing people to see what it's like to be mistreated when you're unhoused, or even to be looked down upon. And so out of that, we kind of started Love Beyond Walls, and we started helping people get off the streets.
And so Love Beyond Walls, basically it donates to this cause towards helping systemic poverty?
Yeah. Helping people get access to basic resources. I remember during COVID, you probably saw it on Good Morning America. We started placing hand washing stations in the streets. Remember, it was wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. And I remember this gentleman coming into our center. We have a facility, and he started to cry because he was just starting to hear about COVID. And he says, I think I'm gonna pass away from this virus. And I was like, why? He was like, because I don't have anywhere to wash my hands.
Wow.
And that kind of sparked the idea of let's start putting hand washing stations out in the streets. And so we started with like 15, and now we have hand washing stations in over 85 cities around the country.
Wow, that's truly that's truly inspirational and will really inspire more people else to, even not in Chicago, to really cause about change.
Yeah.
That's great. And join with us. We'll be back next segment to talk about Mr. Lester's current state of affairs. Thank you. Welcome back to BackTalk. Joining me here is Mr. Terence Lester. Now, Mr. Lester does many things here for the community, and now we're going to talk about another thing he does, motivational speaking, especially at schools, inspiring the youth. Could you tell us really how you get your message across to people my age?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I guess I try to start with me as being a human that has flaws and challenges and has gone through several different obstacles. And so I try to speak from my heart and connect with, young people, because I know how hard it is being a young person, with the pressures of, just being in high school or whatever school you're in. And so I really just try to share from my heart my struggles and how I overcame them. And I really use that as a bridge to connect with young folks, and then use that as a segue to motivate them and inspire them that they can overcome their challenges too.
Do you hope that you can be that figure Mr. Moore was to these young children as well?
Yeah, I'm really excited always about the potential of planting seeds in someone's life that could possibly blossom later on in life. I can't tell you the number of people who've come back to me years later from a talk that I gave or some type of motivational speech I gave or a book I wrote, and they said it helped them overcome, a hardship in their life.
Wow. And so you say in your talks you use digital media and storytelling. Can you talk to us about how you use digital media in a world where many teens and big corporations use digital media for evil, and how you use it for good?
Yeah, well, I always try to focus in on like the stories of everyday people, stories that I've been able to connect with through the work that we do with Love Beyond Walls, stories that I've overcome myself, but also stories about what possibilities there are, where we can head in the future if we were all to collectively come together in a positive way to make a collective impact.
How collaborative are those emotions of trying to inspire, the youth, and as well as motivating? How do you think those will work together to really make them blossom, inspiration and motivation?
Yeah, I just think young people have so many opportunities at their fingertips if they can really hone in on how they've been wired, the gifts, skill sets. Imagine this. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you had it not been for someone calling those things out in my life and really motivating me. And so I try to do the same, but I'm trying to do it in a way where they can collectively see that together we can make a difference in the world if we really got serious about it.
That's really powerful, and that's really exactly why we're having this dialogue right here.
Yeah.
And so the last thing I want to talk about in this segment is you yourself actually have been working very hard towards your PhD, and you've already had 4 degrees. Could you tell us how it's been working hard for those things?
School?
Yeah.
School is really hard. It's a challenge, but it's something that I think saved my life. When I couldn't visit certain places, I read books. When I didn't have the mentors, I read books. And books gave me an opportunity to expand my knowledge base, but also it gave me an opportunity to see the world from many different world views and perspectives. And so I decided to, use my story as a motivator to go and obtain a PhD. And right now I'm working on my dissertation.
Exactly. Yeah, you're very, very close.
Yeah, very close. And I'm excited about it. So hopefully my research will continue to make a difference.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this segment, and we'll be right back in a couple minutes. Thank you so much. welcome back to BackTalk. Now, as I'm sure you know by now, Mr. Lester brings so many things to the table, and now we're going to talk about another one of his skills, being an author. Could you talk to us about your book, I See You, your bestseller? What are the messages in that book, and how would you describe that to someone who would want to read it?
Yeah, I actually was motivated to write that book. I launched a campaign called Map 16 through Love Beyond Walls, where I walked from Atlanta, Georgia, all the way to the White House. It took 2 months to complete that. And along the way, I met so many different people living in poverty, living on the streets, and we actually turned this campaign into a documentary called Voiceless. And along the way, somebody asked me, hey, why don't you just write a book, or have you thought about writing a book about this particular subject? And I said, yeah, like I should. And so I really try to focus in the book I See You about seeing the humanity and the worth and value of every single person, especially the unhoused community. And then I talk about practical ways that people can actually get involved to make a difference related to the subject of homelessness.
And what are some of those ways that they can get involved?
Yeah, well, I think, we could even talk about something as simple as proximity and creating a healthy rhythm in your life where you create the type of margin, right, in your life where you can have service as a rhythm as opposed to something you only do 1 or 2 times a year. I think that service at its core should be a lifestyle. And if we incorporate service-oriented activities in our life, we would start to show up in organizations to volunteer and give our hands to work that is very meaningful.
Service, obviously, something that we need to give to each other.
Yes.
Is service, do you believe, also something we need to give to God? Are your books, they have a faithful approach as well to them?
Yeah, a lot of my writings and the things that I do is motivated by my personal faith. I believe, that God has given me an opportunity to overcome many challenges, and I want to use everything that I have to serve others in a way and motivate others to serve in the same way, because all of what I do is driven by love, the love of God.
The love of God, of course.
Yeah.
And with your new book, When We Stand, does it also kind of take a similar approach of love in those messages as well?
Yeah, well, in that book, I'm really trying to push people to think about collective impact, because sometimes we look at the problems in the world and we can get really overwhelmed. And what I'm arguing in that book is, together, even if we contribute in small ways together, a lot of those things collected together can actually make a huge impact. It's like a ripple effect. And I'm really trying to push people to get into community. You can't tackle an issue by yourself. So it's like when we stand together, right?
Yeah, of course.
Against any problems that exist.
So to sum things up, systemic poverty, you think it can be beaten by these 2 themes that you have. Is togetherness is the main overlying one, right?
Togetherness, being willing to be empathetic, and see people's struggles, humanizing people, and not looking at people as problems, but as people going through problems. I think it's a reframing of all of that. But, it can make a small start and step in the right direction.
And so can people help by buying these books and donating to Love Beyond Walls?
Always, of course. But, what I really want people to do is, if they get a chance to read these books, is to purchase them and deeply reflect on their contribution they can make in the world right around them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's truly beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. As we just learned his author side of things and how he's just so talented in all the skills and things he does to fight and combat systemic poverty. Thank you so much, and we'll be right back for closing remarks. Thank you so much. Mr. Lester, it's been a real pleasure having you. And right before we leave, could you just give us maybe a sentence or two what you're doing to help in the future?
Yeah, well, right now I'm focused on finishing my dissertation. It's going to be a creative dissertation, and I'm going to actually do a documentary film that will be contributed to the Dignity Museum, which is a museum that La Bien Wall started. It's the first museum in the United States that represents homelessness. And so we want to really use storytelling, documentaries, and oral history to really humanize and change the narrative on homelessness.
Well, thank you, and there you have it. Thank you so much for coming. It's been a real pleasure having you. I'm Liam Hickey, and this was BackTalk. Thank you so much.